Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Prime Minister, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Honourable Ministers and Honourable Members of Parliament, Isambul Banaka, and good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise today in this Honourable House to lend my full support to the 2021-2022 National Budget. At the outset, I would like to commend the Honourable Attorney General and Minister for Economy and his team for their confidence in framing this national budget under the most challenging of circumstances. Despite the difficulties encountered, this government has provided a holistic budget that serves the needs of all Fijians. Mr. Speaker, sir, Fiji, like the world, is facing one of the darkest periods of our history as we battle this pandemic, while our country is experiencing its worst economic hardship. Under this global financial crisis, we continue to support our citizens who are devastated by this pandemic. Despite this economic fallout, which is tagged as the single largest economic contraction in Fijian history, government couched a sustainable and bold budget that provides the economic environment to support recovery. Amidst the darkness, government through this budget is projecting a future that is safe and an economy that can rise from its current contracted size. Mr. Speaker, sir, small island developing economies like Fiji are at a disadvantage, as we do not have the fiscal luxury to sustain our economies with huge stimulus measures, nor do we have the privilege of being first in the line to get vaccines. Many politicians on the other sides of this august House are saying that this budget is unsustainable and has significant fiscal challenge. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have one simple question to these so-called intellectuals. Can you show us any country in the world, or especially any small island developing states or seeds, that has no fiscal challenge right now post-COVID? The simple answer is none, and I have with me, Mr. Speaker, sir, a post-COVID report by OECD after 1 year, particularly for seeds, and it's interesting reading, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, government income is very low because of the low economic activities. Low economic activities mean low taxes and lower government revenue. We are all managing through this COVID-19 storm together. However, this is only temporarily and it will subside. We are working with any other seeds country, with good technical support, oversight and surveillance of our development partners, including the IMF and the World Bank. This is why we have confidence in this budget. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, our collective national efforts against COVID-19 and projections for recovery is continuously being challenged by the increasing misinformation spewed to discredit vaccination efforts that is a critical prerequisite to safeguarding all Fijians. This has been exacerbated by lies and propaganda brought by anti-government elements here and abroad. These elements do not have Fiji's best interest at heart and are misleading Fijians that our rights as safeguarded under our Constitution are under threat. Mr. Speaker, sir, we must realize that we are not in normal times and our collective security takes precedence over our individual rights. This is, again, Mr. Speaker, sir, one of the biggest challenges for Fiji now. It's not so much the virus. It's about human behavior and human rights. These are the big challenges that we have in the country right now, particularly in our campaign against COVID-19. From a collective security perspective, I say again, Mr. Speaker, sir, our biggest challenges are human rights and human behavior. Collective security, once again, Mr. Speaker, sir, is a collective responsibility. It is a shared responsibility. The Honourable Gergertabua has correctly stated, there is no government without people. But government needs the people as well when it comes to strategies. We need the people. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'll probably talk more on that during the course of my delivery this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I reiterate my sincerest appreciation and thanks to all our frontliners who are constantly working around the clock, sacrificing their time away from their families to fight this battle against this virus. Let us not undermine their great effort for a safer Fiji. Our complacency and disobedience is perhaps the greatest security threat to our hopes to contain this virus and return our lives to normalcy. We cannot win this fight if we do not play our part in this battle. Mr. Speaker, sir, everyone needs to play their part. Parents, community leaders, village elders, chiefs, churches, and most importantly, every individual Fijian needs to wake up and realize that this pandemic is very much real and not some sort of conspiracy theory as being spread through social media by some overnight experts. The increasing number of positive cases and deaths only point to our own selfishness and resistance. And government will not hesitate to resort to taking drastic measures to ensuring compliance to protocols for the safety, security, and well-being of Fiji and all Fijians. My portfolio of ministries, including the security forces, will continue to ensure compliance on all fronts. Mr. Speaker, sir, it shouldn't have to take government to come down hard on people by instituting lockdowns to stop the spread of this virus. It shouldn't have to take the alarming rates of positive cases and deaths to get us to realize the seriousness of this pandemic and to get vaccinated. Mr. Speaker, sir, vaccines protect us all. Government has taken the first step and gone to great lengths with the support of our partners to make available the vaccines. It is now time for all Fijians to help themselves by getting vaccinated. We must all remember that God helps those who help themselves first. We do acknowledge the spiritual component of this, Mr. Speaker, sir, but there are different levels of faith in the community. And that is something that we as leaders must understand, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, the budget before the House is a budget that helps us all and steers us to a post-COVID prosperity. Government has yet again put Fiji first. Again, let me say that once more. Government has yet again, and as usual, put Fiji first in our 2021-2022 national budget by putting the needs of all Fijians, Mr. Speaker, sir, first. Mr. Speaker, sir, despite the uncertain and difficult time that we are presently facing, this government is hopeful that the future of our economy will again be restored and prosper. The budget before the House provides the means to achieve that vision. As such, Mr. Speaker, sir, today I wish to outline how the government through my portfolio ministries and line departments aim to fight and win the battle against this pandemic. But before doing so, Mr. Speaker, sir, just a few quick rebuttals. Let me just go quickly to what the Honorable Rasova made fun of, particularly of the boom, 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 boom. Mr. Speaker, sir, it's said that some members of the other side enjoyed the boom so much that they wanted to change their residential addresses so that they can gain more from the boom. And that's a fact, Mr. Speaker, sir. They have come to condemn the captain of this boat on this side, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, let me read the article from the two papers on the 16th of April this year. Tambuya queries leadership. This is by Luke Nadei. This is just April 16th, just a few months away. And this is the response from the party leader. Stop bad-mouthing party. That is Ngabok. I will not go into the details. This is from another. Yes, we talked about the captaincy of this boat and he's steering us in good waters, but this is the alternative government that wants to go take the country into 2022. This is another article, Mr. Speaker, sir. Resign, Tambuya tells Ngaboka and Ratu Epenisa. I will not go into the detail, Mr. Speaker, sir. Honorable Rasova talked about the previous leader of the opposition resigning because of the lack of bipartisanship in here. But that was what he stated in Parliament. When he left the doors of Parliament, he talked about the cloak and dagger issue in Sodelpa. It's a cloak and dagger party. Mr. Speaker, sir, that's the alternative government that we are looking at. That's the leadership. The Honorable Gernger Tambua correctly stated about the qualities of leadership. How can you lead a government, a cloak and dagger party? Mr. Speaker, sir, let me just go. If I have time, I'll come back. I enjoy this, Mr. Speaker, sir. Ministry of Rural Development, I'm pleased to share with this House that the Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development and National Disaster Management Office has already been consistently engaged with activities that support the national budget objectives, and the Honorable Vijay Nath has talked about it, and then later on, the Honorable Seruiratu will also help me in that area, Mr. Speaker. Sir. But I've talked about the OECD report. On that note, I wish to thank that say and thank our partners. We are not working in isolation, Mr. Speaker. Sir. The World Bank is currently working with us, and of course, targeting also our vegetable farmers, those that sell fruit and sell vegetables to the markets, those that produce handicrafts, particularly for our tourism sector, ensuring that Fijians, including the country's most vulnerable, can get assistance and support when they need it most. Mr. Speaker, sir, we must continue to future-proof Fiji. We have to further diversify our economic base to make us further more resilient to adversities that will surely come in this century and more open to new opportunities, including bluer, greener, and the sources of employment for our people. Mr. Speaker, it is evident that the global pandemic and natural disasters have undermined some of our hard-won developments. However, you and the nation can be rest assured that with innovative and risk-informed rural development strategies, we will not only rebuild our economy, but build back better. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me quickly go to the Ministry of Defense. Head number 6, Ministry of Defense, National Security and Policing. Mr. Speaker, I wish to acknowledge and share my appreciation for the total budget of 14.4 million provided to the Ministry of Defense, National Security and Policing, which is allocated for the following key programs and initiatives, Mr. Speaker, sir. For the National Security Defense Review, a total of $260,000.96. $12 million, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the Aftercare Fund, expressing government's continued commitment to all our returned and retired ex-servicemen and dependents for those whose returned service personnel have passed on. An allocation of $10,000 for narcotics policy framework, an allocation of $10,000 for humanitarian assistance and disaster rehabilitation. Mr. Speaker, sir, we also have the continued funding of $200,000 for search and rescue, and of course a new allocation of $10,000 for the anti-human trafficking initiatives as outlined in our anti-human trafficking strategy 2021 to 2026. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the security industry licensing, I also express great appreciation that through this budget, government will pay all security licensing fees for the next 12 months for all security companies and security industry employees who are required to possess and maintain a security license. This is an alternative employment opportunity for most of our people who have been laid off from the other sectors, Mr. Speaker, sir, and this is in fact a good initiative, and we need to applaud the Honourable Minister for Economy for this. On the RFMF, Mr. Speaker, sir, the RFMF continues to effectively execute its role and responsibilities as entrusted under the 2013 Constitution of ensuring the security, defence and well-being of all Fijians. On countless occasions, the RFMF have demonstrated its ability to become the key defence instrument in Fiji's arsenal, particularly during times of conflict, including regional and global peacekeeping, natural disasters, disaster response, and of course, supporting our current pandemic, Mr. Speaker, sir. Although the allocation of 79.7 million to the RFMF means a decrease of 5.2%, but of course, Mr. Speaker, sir, it was a necessary sacrifice to enable the Fiji government to provide necessary fiscal space in assisting ordinary Fijians during these telling times. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will not go into the details, but let me just say, particularly, that the bulk of the 79 million is skewed towards maintaining the force strength and operational readiness in order to effectively provide critical support services to the nation. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me just highlight the $12.1 million allocated to the RFMF's Naval Division, which is responsible for the surveillance and security of Fiji's maritime zone, which is also critically supporting our COVID-19 responses. Mr. Speaker, sir, this week is Navy Week, and that's why I'm wearing the Navy tie right throughout this week, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I wish to convey my well wishes to all our sailors, past and present, and of course wishing them well as well, and thank them for their work, particularly during this crisis, Mr. Speaker, sir. On Head 49, peacekeeping operations, this involves the police and of course the RFMF. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, sir, the allocation of 50.6 million for RFMF and Fiji Police Force personnel committed for deployment to peacekeeping and UN policing missions ensure our continued commitment to global peace and security. On the Fiji Police Force, Mr. Speaker, sir, as Minister responsible for policing, I acknowledge with great appreciation the allocation of 184.3 million for our premier law enforcement agency, the Fiji Police Force. This supports their commitment towards the maintenance of law and order whilst remaining steadfast in their COVID-19 response through the enforcement of all the legislation passed since 19 April 2021, when the COVID-19 pandemic first entered our domestic front. The allocation includes 4.4 million for the recruitment again of 328 positions, which will greatly support the work of the Fiji Police Force, not only into the future, but particularly during the current crisis that we are going through, Mr. Speaker, sir. As honorable members of the House, that there is a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan, 20-year plan for the Fiji Police Force, and the recruitment has been happening from the last few years, Mr. Speaker, sir, that will see the strength of the Fiji Police Force being increased, and not only that, capability and capacity as well within the force. So 4.4 million will be allocated for that purposes, Mr. Speaker, sir. 25 million for the ongoing construction of police stations, ensuring police accessibility to people in the Central and Western Division. I've said this already in this August House, Mr. Speaker, sir. And of course, the other members from the other side are also highlighting about the state of buildings, not only for hospitals, but government offices, Mr. Speaker, sir, because these were built from, most of them were built from the colonial days, and we are thankful that this government is taking the necessary steps to ensure that we create a better environment for our people to operate from. And that is why we will see the continuation and hopefully completion of Nandi Police Station and the regional police headquarters in Lautoka, and of course Nakashi, the continuation, and of course Nalawa as well, Mr. Speaker, sir. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir, like in our recovery from natural disasters, this pandemic has taught us a valuable lesson that we are a nation of resilient people, and this budget maintains financial prudence while gearing us towards overall economic recovery and stability. Above all, it is focused on ensuring sustenance for all Fijians in these trying times whilst providing opportunities for growth. Mr. Speaker, sir, whilst there will be naysayers opposing and criticizing the budget, independent commentaries and research have supported and validated this budget. The Bank of Australia and New Zealand, the ANZ, has dubbed Fiji's budget as strong and just, what the doctor ordered. Mr. Speaker, sir, this 2021-2022 budget is evidence of government's approach to providing the people of Fiji hope, and that at the end of the tunnel there is light. The onus is now on all of us to step up and carry out our duties and responsibilities as citizens of our country. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are two questions that I keep asking, particularly most recently because of the crisis that we are going through. Are we really patriotic as Fijians about our country? Do we love Fiji? My other question is, what can we do? because there is no government without people. But collective security, I say that again, collective security is a shared responsibility. It's everybody taking that responsibility seriously. And I hope that we will be patriotic. We want the team. We wish our team in Tokyo all the very best, bring back the gold. And at the same time, for us to win this war here in Fiji, we need to work together. Mr. Speaker, with this I close by reiterating my full support for the 2021-2022 national budget. And since it's Navy Week, Mr. Speaker, sir, I say bravo Zulu. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
I thank the Honourable Minister for his contribution to the debate.